Alright, I'm back with another 1v1 competitive ELO game, doing a post-commentary on this one. Got a pretty good start here, good forest birds, good tucking bird in the barn swallow. American redstart is always great. Food web and wetland scientist are our bonus card options. Our wetland options aren't looking too great. Right now it's barn swallow and willet. I really prefer to play swallows into the grasslands if possible. They're just so much stronger there in general. Looking at willet as my wetland body. Does qualify for wetland scientist. But the thing being, you need 3 birds to get 3 points with wetland scientist. And if you get 2 birds with food web expert, you're scoring 4 points. So I debate between the 2 bonus cards here, but I end up settling on food web expert. Painted white start is also a good forest start that lines up with my bonus card. That is going to cost me a food to keep. Blue-gray gnatcatcher is in the tray and basically does the exact same. It's the exact same bird. 1 point, 1 worm, 3 egg nest. They have different nest types, but that's not going to matter in this game. I think I am going to leave the painted white start behind here and opt to draw the gnatcatcher from the tray since we're going first. And that lines up with my goals, but it also denies that good forest bird from my opponent if they don't already have one in their starting hand. My opponent has kept 3 birds, keeping a worm and a cherry for their food, so they had some good cards there that they wanted to keep. But I'll follow through with my plan here to deny the gnatcatcher. Juniper titmouse flips up. That's a good forest bird, so it's possible my opponent grabs that. We have a pretty egg-intensive first half, so we got to keep an eye on that. My opponent leads with the gain food action, so they pick up a second cherry there. Interesting play. I'm going to throw down the blue-gray gnatcatcher. And my opponent leads with Baltimore Oriole. So that's going to be nice to have some extra cherries potentially, especially with this red start in hand. Pick up a couple worms here for all of our worm-eating birds. There we get a free cherry already. Going to throw down this barn swallow since we're swimming in food right now. Lining up for the round 1 goal here. Another free cherry, which is pretty great. We're going to discard a cherry for an extra egg. Fill up our swallow. And I am going to get rid of the willet here. And we top deck American oyster catcher, which is amazing because it helps us draw some cards. It's a 5-point body and it lines up with our food web expert, getting an extra 2 points. So that's going to be a 7-point bomb that gets us 2 cards. There's Cedar Waxwing for my opponent. To gain some more food here. Deliberating over that. Going to focus on worms. And the oyster catcher is going to be helpful because it'll pick up cards that will then fuel the barn swallow without us having to take the draw card action. There, my opponent drew a single card. And we're going to end up giving them an extra card here off the oyster catcher. And now I have a dilemma. The Bell's Vireo is the obvious choice for my setup. It's a good bonus card bird, and it picks up 2 more points from Food Web Expert. But my opponent is starved for card drawing birds. And I wouldn't necessarily mind the tree swallow myself in the wetlands, and I do opt to go for the tree swallow here. And I thought about this for a while after this action. I was like, man, I really hope that was the right action to take. And I assume my opponent is going to keep the Bell's Vireo because it's the better card out of the 2. But yeah, I kind of felt bad about this decision for quite a while. What would you tell me? What you would have done in this instance? I assume most of you would have probably kept the Bell's Vireo, kind of the obvious choice, but my opponent is really strapped for card draw, and I felt like in this moment it would be better to deny them that Wetland Tucking Bird than it would be to pass them that Bell's Vireo and miss out on those points myself. There we see another free cherry from my opponent, and that actually helps us out because we could play this Tree Swallow and draw a couple extra cards and get a tuck and a point off that as well. So it's looking at this moment like I'm going to play this Tree Swallow, and I don't feel as bad about passing on that Bell's Vireo here, but I do go to play it, and I have second thoughts. I'm looking at this round goal because my opponent has the food to chuck for an extra egg, and they can lay 3 eggs on their cedar waxwing. If I play a bird here, I'm going to lose an egg. I have 1 activation left in the round. So if I play that swallow, I'm coming in second on the round goal. And this is really a crummy position because I'm realizing anything I do here, I'm going to concede the round goal to my opponent. So I just opt to lay eggs, chucking another cherry, and lining up my eggs for the round 2 goal. Debating about which of these birds to take. The great horned owl is looking pretty good here. It's a nice big bomb, and I do grab that. And we tie on the round goal. And we have a nice looking tray here, but my opponent gets first pick. So I'm looking at that white-throated swift. The house wren is a good pab bird that qualifies for our food web. And European turtle dove is not a bad bonus card bird action or option here, rather. So there we see purple gallinule for my opponent. So their only card draw wetland option here now is to share cards with me. So that helps out a lot, because now I'm looking at this white-throated swift, which is going to be card hungry, and any cards that they hand me with that gallinule can be converted into 2 points on this swift. And I'm really deliberating about what cards I want. I really want all 3 of these, but I'm not going to be able to get both of them on this action. And we flip up black-throated diver and housefinch for my opponent, so Rule 16 strikes here. Those are really the cards they need right now. But it could be that the damage has been done, that they've stalled out enough already, that it could take them a while to get these birds down and utilize them to full effect. And my opponent is really stuck in a difficult position right now because they're sharing a bunch of cherries, they're sharing cards with me, and I'm already ahead by at least a little bit. So any type of gains they try to make with their food sharing birds is only helping to keep me ahead of them. There we see northern goshawk flip up in the train. I'm really looking at that one. It's a forest bird. It combos very nicely with my house wren. I'm debating whether to discard a food here. I choose not to. And now I can pick up the goshawk. And I'm definitely still thinking about this swift. Another free cherry for my opponent. And I'm loving all these cherries. Maintaining the eggs in my forest. And we're going to get rid of the owl and the tree swallow or the redstart here. I can't remember which one I get rid of. Looks like the tree swallow. Yeah. We're already at 8 points on Food Web Expert. And here I have an interesting play in front of me. There's a wheat in the bird feeder. I could grab the wheat and flip it and hopefully get a second wheat. That allows me to play the turtle dove, and then I can draw the white-throated swift off the turtle dove. And at this point I'm kind of deliberating about where to play. Do I want to drop it into the grasslands to improve my grassland activation, I could drop it as the second body in my wetlands to improve that activation. There we see the house finch from my opponent. Good play from them. And we do manage to get the second weed here. Now we're kind of entering the point in the game where the red start really isn't going to do a lot for me. It is still a good bird, but it's going to cost 2 eggs to get it down, and I don't really need the extra food generation. Another free cherry. And here comes the turtle dove. And a 0-point omnivore. Hopefully we can make some points on that. It's a good bonus card, but right now it's not helping us get anything, so it's just as good as a brick. Godwit pops up. That's a great bomb. I'm looking at that one as well. And we're coming to the end of round 2, and my opponent has put the house finch in the forest, so that implies that they're working on winning this goal of eggs in the forest, but they might also have a mind on building out their forest instead of their grasslands. So here comes the swift. We have 1 activation left, and we could potentially get 4 eggs into the forest and win this round goal. My opponent is only going to be able to get 6. They have 3 currently. They can get 3 more in there if they spend a food. So there they laid their eggs. And I'm looking at that Godwit, and I'm realizing that it's now or never if I want that Godwit. So I could tuck the red start on the swallow and scoop up that Godwit, but that means I'm going to tie on the round goal then. And I end up deciding that that was the route I wanted to take. I'm assuming that the Godwit is going to score me more points once I get it down than the extra points gained on the round goal. So there, the red start we kept from our starting hand turned into the Godwit. Pretty good trade. And we do tie on the round goal. Pretty interesting tray. Say's Phoebe is an obvious pick when Food Web Expert is your bonus card. It's not usually a card I play, but right now I've really got my eyes on that. I'm thinking about Red Leg Partridge. How good is that for either one of us? It's not that great. It's an option, but neither one of us are really set up to utilize it well. Common Nightingale is a good card, but I don't think either me or my opponent are going to utilize it effectively, so I'm not too concerned about drawing it. And if they do gain it and use it, it only helps me maintain my lead by giving me more food. So here we're securing the food we need for the Godwit. And we have plenty of extra cherries, so we can overpay for the Godwit here. This is another instance where my opponent's excessive cherry spam is helping us out. My opponent drew cards, handing us another free one. They did take the Nightingale. I don't mind that one bit. So here comes the Godwit. And it's nice that I get to draw a card off it as well. There we have Forester. That's a brick. Probably not going to score points off that. And here we're going to use the Godwit to scoop up the Say's Phoebe. And we're hoping to see something better. The Roadrunner works out well for our bonus cards. But once I do all the math and look at this, it's going to be Phoebe all the way. And that Northern Flicker we picked up off the top of the deck there, off our opponent's Gallinule, is lined up to be a very good play with those 3 worms and the bird feeder. You can play the Flicker, get the 3 worms for the Phoebe, and then play the Phoebe. There we have a double play from my opponent. Downy Woodpecker into the Nightingale, so they're pressuring the wrong goal here. The Nightingale also goes into their forest, so they're really looking to gain a bunch of food here. And the Flicker goes down and picks up 3 worms. What's really great about that Flicker too is it essentially cost us 0 food because that cherry we got from free from our opponent. There we got a free worm and a free cherry, so keep the food coming. I am going to convert an egg into a card here because excess cards can be converted into 2 points through the White-throated Swift. Chipping Sparrow, it's pretty late for that. Meadowlark, and there we get Northern Mockingbird, and that's a prime candidate. We have the food for it. Again, those free cherries coming into play here. And throw that right down in the grasslands to repeat the Swift and the Swallow. And it also has a cup nest, so it picks up an extra egg from the eventual Say's Phoebe. There we see a Warbler Bomb from my opponent. That would have been nice to have. But I'm not going to complain too much here. Another bird toward the round goal. Another Brown Power for the round 4 goal. 1 activation left in the round. I need to lay eggs before I can play my Phoebe. There my opponent dropped a Clark's Grebe. And I want plenty of cards for my hungry White-throated Swift, so I'm going to draw cards here at the end of the round. And I feel like I'm in a good position to win the round goal, but even if I don't win it, I don't feel too bad about it because I'm priming my hand for a repeated Swift in round 4. And I do manage to win the round goal by 1 bird. There we see my opponent drop that Red Wing. Another free card from my opponent. Nothing good there in the California Quail, but it's good tucking fodder. Ruff shows up in the tray. It's not really going to make much of an impact here for anybody. And I start laying my eggs, spreading them around in case we somehow see Omnivore, or not Omnivore, but Oologist. Repeating the Swift for mega points. Nice big Eagle Bomb here. Probably not going to play that one. At this point, it's just about getting the Phoebe down and spamming eggs and tucking cards. So right now, our Grasslands is a 9-point activation, which is pretty incredible with 4 turns left in the game. I'm going to throw down this Phoebe. So now we have a 10-point engine in front of us. As long as we have cards to tuck and food to discard for extra eggs. That really makes that food sharing dangerous for my opponent. Way more dangerous than it has been all game. So we can kind of expect that food to dry up here at the end. Repeat the Swift. And not really too concerned about the round goal at this point. It's all about spamming these eggs and running this engine. Here my opponent drops a little Bustard, good bonus card bird. And we're just going to keep doing what we need to do here with this Grasslands. Just kind of staying in the practice of keeping my eggs spread around for Oologist and Breeding Manager. Repeat the Barn Swallow here so I can maintain cards in hand. No food to discard. And we're going to have to repeat the Barn Swallow here. and tuck on the Swift, and we're going to miss out on a card here on the Swallow. I probably could have done that better. If you were to go back and look at all those actions, I could have lined it up a little bit better, but... And we lose that round goal, but that was a foregone conclusion. Alright, if you like that action, please hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. Please consider subscribing. They're ahead on bird points. They do surprisingly well on bonus cards. Even on round goals. And I come back on the eggs. And the Tucks are going to bring it home. 104 to 89 with 2 bricked bonus cards. Let's see what my opponent had here. Looking at my board. 12 points off Food Web Expert. We'll switch to my opponent. Maxed out Viticulturist and a 4-point Ethologist. So they did fairly well there. Alright, thanks for watching, everybody.